Alright, now we're into section 4, lesson 31, adding integers and collecting like terms. There's a lot to this lesson, okay? We'll just tell you that ahead of time. Example 1, if the temperature in the morning is -4 degrees, but increases 10 degrees by noon, what is the noontime temperature? Okay? Well, one way that we can do this is to represent it with a number line. I like, for these kind of problems, especially temperature, using vertical number lines because it's like a thermometer. Okay, well, if we put 0 here, we know the temperature in the morning is -4 degrees, so I need to go down to -4. And so, if I go down to -4, there's my temperature in the morning. But then it's going to increase 10 degrees by noon, okay? So that means it's going to go up 10. So now I need to make sure my number line has enough spaces here. Okay, and if I go up 10 spaces, if I start here at -4 and I go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, I end up right here at +6 degrees. Okay, so the noontime temperature is 6 degrees. It's a chilly day. 6 degrees at noon. Must be the middle of January, February or something. So again, this is a good way to represent this problem, is by using this number line model. Okay, and sometimes your book is going to tell you to use number lines. So if it tells you to use a number line, then you need to go ahead and show this kind of work. Okay, let's go on to another example. Okay, so example 2, Sam has no money and owes a friend $5. If Sam earns $5 or $15 washing cars, then he can repay his friend and have money left over. It says to write an equation for this situation and find out how much money Sam has after he repays his friend. Okay, so we know that Sam owes some money. So I always like writing a verbal model. So he's in the hole to start with. He's got the money he owes. But then he's going to make some money. And that's going to equal how much he has left over. Okay? Well, we know that he owes his friend $5. That means he's got -$5 to start with. He's in the hole. Plus, he's going to make $15. And that's going to equal how much money he has left. We don't know that. That's what we want to try to find. Okay? Well, once again, we can represent this with a nice number line here. And if I put 0 way down here, I know that he starts at -5. Okay, so we got -1, this should say -2 right here, -3, then -4, then -5. Alright, so we know right away that he's down money. He's down $5. Okay. 2, 3, got to finish numbering our number line. And there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And now we know he's going to earn $15. Okay? So he's going to go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. That's going to end him right here at +10. So that means he's going to have $10 left over. He's rich. Okay? $10 left after he repays his friend. Alright, now let's go on to a couple more examples here. Okay, sometimes your book is going to ask you to model problems on a number line. Okay? And if they ask you to model a problem that looks like this, right here, or this on a number line, you need to use a horizontal number line, okay? Plus, it'll take up less space on your paper usually. I want your horizontal number lines to always go from -10 to +10 for now, okay? So make sure that you got all numbers included in here from -10 to +10 when you number these, when you make your number lines. Alright, now here's how we do this. I like to use colors. I like to use red for negatives and green for positives. But if you don't have colors, that's okay. The important things are to make sure that you draw your arrows correctly and that they're facing the right way. Okay, so first thing I'm going to represent is a -3. Well, I always start at 0, and I need to go from 0 to -3. So I need to draw an arrow that starts at 0 and points toward -3. And notice this is a -3, and my arrow points in the negative direction over this way. Okay, so I went from 0 to -3. That's how I represent the first number. And I like you to go ahead and put the number you represented above it. Okay? So now we're going to start where we ended off here. We're going to start another arrow. And this arrow is going to represent a +5. So I'm going to start at 3, and I'm going to go 5 spaces from the end of my arrow here. It needs to point in the positive direction. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it ends right here. My arrow represents a +5. Notice it's pointing in the positive direction because my 5 is positive. Well, I started at 0, I went -3, and then +5. Now I'm going to circle the number where I ended up. I ended at +2. So that's my answer. Okay, -3 plus 5 equals 2. And that's how I model that on a number line. Okay, so again, things to notice, things I want out of these kind of problems from you. Number line from -10 to +10 with numbers in the correct order. Start your first arrow at 0 and have it point the correct way to represent the first number. Your second arrow starts from the end of your first number and it points the correct way and models this number of spaces. And then you circle where you end up for your answer. Okay? Let's try another one here. Here I've got a +3. So I'm going to start with a +3 arrow and write the number it's representing above it. Then I've got plus a -5. So now I need a negative facing arrow that is 5 spaces long. So I start at the end, okay, where I left off at 3, and I need to go the other way 5 spaces. So now I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And this represents -5. And now look where I ended, right here. So 3 plus -5 is -2. And the last example now. Well, now I've got -5, so I need to start with a -5 arrow. And my other number is -3. So now I need to start my arrow where I left off, and it needs to be a negative arrow. So it's going to go this way, 3 spaces. So I'm going to start here and go 1, 2, 3 spaces to the negative side. And circle where I left off at -8. And there's my answer. And again, this is how I want you to model these on a number line. Okay, they don't need to be color-coded, but your arrows should be facing the same way. You should have the numbers above your arrows and circle where you leave off. Alright, so what do we notice here? Well, when I had a negative plus a positive, what did I do? My answer was 2. How do I use the numbers 5 and 3 and end up with 2? I just subtracted them. Okay, 5 minus 3 is 2. And then there were more positives than negatives, so I kept the positive sign. Same thing here. I had a positive and a negative. I subtracted the numbers and got 2, but this time there were more negatives than positives, so I had a negative answer. And then on this one I had 2 negatives. What did I do with my 2 numbers to get 8? Well, I added them together, and then I kept the sign they had. They were both negative, so my answer is negative. Alright, and that's going to take us into the next slide with the addition rules, okay, for when we add integers. And here are our rules for adding integers, okay? So if they're the same sign, for example, if we do, let's say it's 4 plus 5, or -4 plus -5. Okay, they're the same sign. What you're going to do is add the numbers together and then keep the sign the same. Okay, so we do 4 plus 5, we're going to add the numbers together, and then they were both positive, so I've got a positive answer. Here, they're the same sign. I'm going to add the numbers together. 4 plus 5 is 9. And then I'm going to keep the sign they had. They were both negative. Okay? If we've got different signs, so like say we've got -4 plus 5, or if I have 4 plus -5. They're different signs. One's negative and one's positive. Same thing here. So there I'm going to subtract the numbers. Well, 5 minus 4 is 1. And same thing over here. 5 minus 4 is 1. But then I'm going to keep the sign of the larger number. Here, my larger number is 5. It's positive. So my answer is positive 1. And over here, my larger number is 5, but it's negative. So over here, my answer is -1. Okay? Make sure you know these rules and follow them for when we have these kind of problems. Okay? And make sure you show me your work. Rewrite the problem, and then we're adding things together. Okay? So again, make sure you've got these down, and make sure you know them and understand them. If you need to study them, then study them. Alright, now let's use them to make these problems easier. Alright, so now we're on to the objective one, okay, to add integers. So this is kind of the meat of the lesson here. We just learned the addition rules, so now we're going to use them. So instead of doing the number lines, we're just going to use these addition rules to make things go a lot faster and easier. Okay, but again, if the book tells you to use a number line, then you need to use a number line to model things. Alright, so let's get going on these. Here's A. First thing I'm going to do is rewrite the problem. -6 plus +2. When I rewrite this, I really don't need to put the plus sign in here. I know this is positive because there's no negative in front of it. So first thing is we need to pick, are we going to subtract the numbers or add the numbers? So I look for the signs. I've got different signs. One's negative, one's positive. Different signs means I find the difference. Okay, again, different signs means find the difference. That means subtract them. So 6 minus 2 is 4. And then I keep the sign of the larger number. Well, 6 is bigger than 2. That means there's more negatives than positives, so my answer is negative. -4. Okay, B is +6 plus -2. Once again, signs are different. I've got a positive and a negative, so I'm going to find the difference. 6 minus 2 is 4. Now we've got more positives than negatives, so my answer remains positive. Okay, and letter C. -6 plus -2. Now I've got signs that are the same. I've got a negative plus a negative. That means I'm going to add the numbers. 6 plus 2 is 8. So I've got negatives and I'm adding more negatives. That's going to give me negatives. Okay, keep the sign the same. So again, when you add two integers that have the same signs, you keep the sign. Then D is -6 plus +6. Well, I've got different signs, so I'm going to find the difference. 6 minus 6 is 0. Then we don't have a sign to keep because 6 and 6 are the same size, and 0 doesn't have a sign anyway, so the answer is just 0. Alright, so again, those are pretty easy as long as you know what rules to follow and you can keep them straight. Alright, let's do a couple more examples yet.